What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host once again, Odell Beckham Jr., signed and framed photograph. How are we doing today, my friends? How are you all feeling? I know it's that dead, slow, boring part of the Giants offseason, but nevertheless, I still want to come on here and talk New York Giants. I'm really excited about the upcoming season, and even though there's not a whole lot going on in the offseason right now for the Giants, next week we do have some exciting things taking place, which is, of course, OTAs will kick off for the New York Giants. The OTA schedule is a little bit weird. They practice for a few days, they're off for a few days, they're back on and off. It's kind of like a 2-week program that they kind of just come in and out of the building for. And then there's that really long, slow period through June into the end of July when training camp finally kicks off. But with OTAs around the corner, I figured today is a good time to start to preview that, discuss what are we looking for at OTAs? What can we realistically take away from the Giants players practicing in shorts and t-shirts during the OTA period? So that's what we're going to primarily discuss, what to watch for at Giants OTAs, and also probably just talk about some players that I think could have a breakout season this upcoming campaign, including, of course, number 13 right there, Jalin Hyatt. So that's going to be the primary topic of discussion. But as always, drop your thoughts, your comments, your questions down below in the live chat, and we'll engage in conversation throughout the live stream, which should run for about an hour, although there are less topics to talk about, so the full hour might not get filled up. We shall see. Nevertheless, let's go ahead and say what's up to you in the chat. So, Colton, yo, how are we doing? I'm doing great, Colton. By the way, I did get your DM on Twitter. I was just really busy last night, didn't get around to responding to it, but stay patient. I will get around to it, and I will respond to you in due time, my friend. Now you're just saying, yo, I'm focused on this thing surrounding the OTAs and on Hyatt Octane himself needing a breakout season. I like your nickname for our guy, Jalin Hyatt. And yeah, he does need a breakout season because unfortunately, I do fear that if he doesn't break out this year, it could kind of be the end of the road for Jalin Hyatt. Like it's now or never. It's do or die. At the wide receiver position, most of the time, players kind of make an impact sooner rather than later. And if they don't make that impact pretty early on, we kind of see the team move off of them rather quickly within the first few seasons of their career. And then they'll go ahead and maybe bounce around and find a second wind elsewhere. But for the Giants and Jalin Hyatt, it does seem like it's rearing its head to the end of the road because the Giants really do need Jalin Hyatt to perform this year. Otherwise, they're going to look for alternatives. One of them being, of course, Gabe Davis, who they brought in on a free agent visit last week or the week prior, whichever one it was. They had him in for a 2-day visit. We know that Gabe Davis used to be a pretty good player, just had a down year this past season in Jacksonville, also got hurt. So that doesn't help his case. But coming off of this injury, now looking to hopefully return to form and interested in reuniting with Brian Daboll, who definitely got the most out of him when Brian Daboll was the offensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills. So some interesting stuff there. Maybe Gabe Davis gets signed, but what does that mean for Jalin Hyatt? I saw Allen Robinson, former, of course, Rams and Bears and Jaguars player and New York Giants player for a very brief time, I think last summer. He mentioned that, yeah, Gabe Davis is a good player, but the Giants need to give Jalin Hyatt a chance first, saying Jalin Hyatt is a good player and he's got untapped potential, and that, you know, the New York Giants just haven't done enough to create explosive plays for him. And now this season, they should give that a try before they bring in a guy like Gabe Davis. So I do wonder if the Giants are going to be quick to bring in Gabe Davis, if they're going to try and do that ASAP, or if they're going to say, all right, why don't we give Jalin Hyatt OTAs, give him training camp, see how he performs, and if Gabe Davis is still around at the end of the summer and we still need receiver help, maybe then we'll go ahead and sign Gabe Davis. I think that would make sense for the Giants. Be patient. Don't rush into it. Honestly, Gabe Davis, yes, is a good player. Maybe is an upgrade over Jalin Hyatt. However, you don't know what Jalin Hyatt is just yet, and I think you'd be doing a disservice not only to Hyatt, not only to the coaching staff, but also to the front office if you don't actually give Hyatt an opportunity and a chance to prove himself. So I'm hoping that he does get that chance, and I'm hoping that chance kicks off next week at OTAs. And yes, I agree with you, Colton. I really hope we see a bunch of big plays from Hyatt. We saw quite a few during his rookie season, right? Like there was the 2 big receptions that he had against the Arizona Cardinals in week 2. He had a big catch down the sideline against the Patriots. He had a big catch down the sideline against the Rams and another big catch down the sideline against the Washington Commanders. So essentially the common denominator is big catches downfield, oftentimes just running go routes down the sideline. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's always good to have a field stretcher. It's always valuable to have a guy with speed who can take the top off of a defense and push those safeties back. Having a Hyatt out there running at full speed downfield does create openings in the short to intermediate range for guys like Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Darius Slayton. So I think that Hyatt can be valuable. And listen, if you don't take my word for it, take Russell Wilson's word for it. Russell Wilson said that Jalin Hyatt is untapped potential, and he's excited to work with him. And you know what? The quarterback knows best in this situation, I think, especially when you're a quarterback like Russell Wilson, who historically has thrown one of the best deep balls and most consistently accurate deep passes in NFL history, to be completely honest. A future Hall of Famer is now under center for the New York Giants. So if he thinks that he can maximize Hyatt's downfield receiving ability with his elite downfield passing ability, the Giants should give an opportunity to Russell Wilson and Jalin Hyatt to make that thing work. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited for that. My expectations in terms of stats and impact for Hyatt, to consider him a solid WR4/5. So I think that if he goes ahead and puts up 5 touchdowns this year, that's a really solid impact. 5 touchdowns would be like an incredible number, honestly, for him to reach. That's quite a lot. So maybe not. Maybe not 5 touchdowns. But listen, I just think like in terms of stats and impact, I don't know if I can come up with specific stats, but maybe somewhere in that 400 to 500 yards range. It's kind of tough to tell. It's tough to project what the Giants' stats are going to look like this year because I don't know how they're going to distribute these targets and how they're going to share the targets among the receivers. I can't tell how much of a pass first or run first team they're going to be. So all of these things are kind of in flux and in limbo, but I can definitely give you a better answer to this question as we get closer to the preseason. But if he could just hit on a few big plays, kind of be that Marquez Valdez-Scantling type player, I think that's very valuable for the New York Giants and something that they would be happy to welcome. All right. What's the next question that we want to bring up? The big moo. Moo. Why can't anyone see the obvious? Hyatt is a very good and fast vertical runner that finally has the QBs that like to and can throw the ball downfield. Give the kid a chance. He'll perform. I do 100 agree with you. I mean, listen, I thought that Jalin Hyatt coming out of college, was he a bona fide first-round pick? No, I thought he was more of a second-round talent. Obviously, he got projected in the first round, the whole lot actually to the Giants at the end of the first round. He ended up falling out of the first, ended up falling out of the second. Giants got aggressive, traded up for him in the third. I thought that was great value because even though I didn't maybe see him as a first-round pick, as a second-round pick, I absolutely saw the vision because he did have a lot of speed and he did put up ridiculous numbers in the SEC. I mean, he was the Fred Biletnikoff winner, which of course made him the best receiver in the nation in 2023. He is talented. He is very fast. He underwhelmed in his 40-yard dash time, but he still ran a 4.4. A lot of people thought he was going to run 4.3. He ran 4.4, but that's really fast nonetheless. Like, people need to realize maybe he's not Tyreek Hill, but he's still a speedster, and he still has some size and some ability to get downfield. So the Giants just haven't given him an opportunity. I mean, listen, Drew Lock was a wildly inaccurate quarterback and very inconsistent. Daniel Jones refused to throw the deep ball. When he did, it wasn't accurate. Tim Boyle actually threw a couple deep balls pretty accurately, just Hyatt wasn't on the field for him. And Tommy DeVito, again, just an inconsistent player, had a couple deep shots that he would hit, but still a little bit inconsistent. So I agree. They just haven't given Jalin Hyatt a chance. Let's see. Trade up for Dart versus Stick and Pick. I like the conviction, but hate that we missed Collins and another body. I don't know. I think it all worked out because they ended up with Darius Alexander. Darius Alexander is fantastic, and I think that it'll be worth it. If Jackson Dart ends up being a franchise quarterback, the whole thing will be completely worth it. I think that if Jalin Hyatt were to build up more of his muscle mass, it would help him against press coverage. That seems to be the biggest thing that's holding him back. He's not a slot receiver based on his skill set. And so, unfortunately, without having that slot receiver skill set, being a little bit smaller in stature makes it really tough for you to succeed on the outside and to find your success in the NFL if you don't have that physicality. So in order to play on the outside in the NFL, you're going to face a lot of press coverage. During his time at Tennessee, Jalin Hyatt didn't face a lot of press coverage because it's college football and things are different, but also because Tennessee did a really good job of hiding him and moving him away from press coverage and giving him free releases. With free releases, it's a lot easier to get open and a lot quicker that you do get open. But against press coverage, it's much more difficult. And in the NFL, the press coverage is really intense. So that's been one of the things that's held Jalin Hyatt back is his lack of physicality and his lack of ability to beat press coverage. And that's what he needs to work on. He needs to get more physical and more quick off the line of scrimmage in order to beat these press coverages and become a more successful player. That one guy says Wilson hasn't had a chance to be Russell since Seattle. Daboll will get the best of what is left out of him. Doesn't have to be elite. He is the game manager at this point in his career. That's all we need. 100% agree with you. I mean, Brian Daboll took a good game manager to the playoffs in 2022. Daniel Jones, for all of his pitfalls in 2022, did a really good job managing football games that season. He played winning football. It's the following 2 years he didn't play game managing football. He turned the ball over and he played poorly, and the Giants ended up losing games and moving on from him. That's the reason why. But as a game manager in 2022, he did a good job, and the Giants went to the playoffs because Brian Daboll can get the most out of a game manager. And so I agree with you in terms of being an underdog. Russell Wilson, or in terms of being a game manager, Russell Wilson is one of the best game managers in the NFL at this point in his career, I would say, because he actually does have the ability to throw some deep shots and hit downfield. So, yeah, I think Daboll will get the most out of him at this stage in his career. Whatever's left, I think the juice will be squeezed, and I'm really excited to see it happen. Pete, what's up? Saying, I heard you're going to be in Vegas next week and we should meet up, dude. I will be in Vegas next weekend. I will be there Friday, Saturday, leaving Sunday. So it's a short stay, very quick trip. I'm going to be staying primarily for a week in LA, but making a drive over to Vegas just to have some fun and go see Kendrick Lamar in concert. I'm very excited for that. That's going to be on that Saturday night, but Friday night, Saturday night, both times I will be out at the casinos. I'll post about it, I guess, probably on social media on my Twitter, and you can always message me there as well if you want to say what's up to me while I'm hopefully tearing the house down at blackjack. Let me know, and I'll be happy to say what's up to a fellow Fireside Giants community member. Why haven't we signed Bobby O to a longer extension? That's a good question, and a couple things do come to mind. First and foremost, he did take a little bit of a step backward last season. I think people totally blow that out of proportion, though. Personally speaking, I think he still had a good year. Anybody who's like, oh, Bobby Okereke needs to have a bounce back season, he had a bad year in 2024. You're absolutely out of your mind. He didn't have a bad year. He just didn't have a phenomenal year like he did the season prior. And that was a result of playing on a really bad football team. When it's a bad football team, even your best players are inevitably going to take a step backwards. And that's all that happened. So the other reason why I would think the Giants haven't signed Bobby O to a longer extension, there was a rumor and a report earlier this offseason that came from Pat Leonard. I'm taking it with a grain of salt because nobody else has corroborated the report. But Pat Leonard's report said that the Giants don't like Bobby Okereke. For some reason, there's a personality. It just doesn't mesh. So maybe that's the reason why. But outside of that, I think it's probably just a matter of timing. The Giants are waiting for him to get back on the field and start playing at a high level again. And if he does that, they'll go ahead and re-sign him. But they also do really like what they have in Micah McFadden. And I think that they should extend him sooner rather than later as well. El Jefe, what's up? Saying, I like being the underdog because when getting underestimated, it opens windows for guys like Jalin Hyatt to prove what he can do. Go Big Blue. Yes, go Big Blue. Thank you, El Jefe. And I agree with you. Being the underdog is so much fun, like it was in 2007, 2008, and like it was in 2011, 2012, 2016, 2022. Those seasons were so much fun because underdogs doing a whole lot. Am I the only Giants fan who would wear a Cowboys jersey over an Eagles? Random, but I can't be the only one who feels like this. I feel like this. There's no way I wouldn't really wear either jerseys. I'm not with that, but I will say there's nothing that you could do to get me an Eagles jersey. Maybe a Cowboys jersey. I hate the Eagles more than anything. That's the rivalry that I feel more intensely about. Obviously, don't like either of these teams. Not a fan of them, but I really specifically hate the Eagles, and it's a way worse. My passionate disliking towards the Eagles is way stronger than my passionate disliking towards the Cowboys personally. Brad, hope to see you guys at training camp, Fireside and Collective Rock. All the people I used to watch all in one place. Thanks so much, Brad. I really do love the Giants Collective show. If you guys are unfamiliar with the Giants Collective, it's a panel that I do. It's a twice a week show, Wednesdays and Friday nights. I'm on there with Chris the Entertainer, with Bad Dog, and with Adriana NYG Fangirl. Recently changed her name to Empire Sports Report, I think Empire State Sports Report maybe. But it's a great show. Love it over there. Go search on the YouTube bar, Giants Collective. Give it a sub and check us out tomorrow night, 7 p.m. We'll be live. So really good conversations there. A lot of different opinions and really different approaches to the game of football with these different perspectives. It's so much fun. And also, first part of your comment, I will be at training camp. I was actually just texting Alex about this earlier. I still don't think he's going to be back in the country in time for training camp. He's on a very long extended stay. Maybe he will be, maybe he won't be. I'm not sure. But I'll be in the country and I will be at training camp. I think my plan is going to be for the final stretch of training camp right before the first preseason game. I'm going to go to a few of the practices and then go to the preseason game and then head back home and start to get into the groove of live streaming during the games throughout the final 2 preseason games and into the regular season. But stay tuned to the channel. Of course, I'll make that announcement. We'll be posting it on social media everywhere whenever I am going to the practices, going to the practices and going to the games. I will, of course, announce that, and hopefully we can all meet up and say what's up to each other. The big moo. Bobby O didn't have the same season as the season before because of Shane Bowman's scheme. He's a great player, and Pat Leonard is an idiot. Well, I think the scheme definitely had an effect, but I think also more importantly, the lack of run defense capabilities from the trenchmen. Right? Like, obviously, there's the first level and the second level. The second level struggled as a result of the first level struggles, in my opinion. Like, Bobby Okereke didn't get as many tackles, didn't make as much of an impact against the run because there were a lot of open gaps and open holes because of the lack of consistent quality play from the interior of the defensive line. So the defensive line being as poor as it was, I think affected the linebackers and caused Bobby Okereke to not play as well. Fireplace Gaming. Personally, I don't listen to Pat Leonard. The way he words and asks his questions is usually negative, and he's trying to get a story for clicks. Listen, he's very good at what he does, and I mean that in a very respectful manner. You are right of the way he asks certain questions and the way that he can kind of edge in there to get a story from a certain angle. He's very good at it. Like, I have to respect him. It's not the kind of journalism that I ever strive to do. It's not my style. It's not the kind of reporting that I ever want to do in the future, but it is always going to exist. And there's always going to be at least a reporter on every single beat who behaves that way and gets those kinds of stories for their publication. And he is the best at it. Like, he's really, really good at doing what he does. So I got to respect it. It's not my style. But you know what? For what he does, there's really few that can rival the way that he is able to report on football. From the South, and I hate the Cowboys and their fans. Yeah, I don't blame you. Cowboys fans are obnoxious. Greg Turdhaller. Good, Anthony. You are proper Giants fans. The Eagles hate we're born with, and the Cowboys hate I had to learn. I think a part of it is because up in the Northeast region, and this is my personal experience, there's still a lot of Cowboys fans, like in the New York, New Jersey area. Like, there's a lot of Eagles fans too, but the Eagles fans in that area are from the area and they're completely obnoxious, despicable, annoying fans. But the Cowboys fans in that area are like New Yorkers that just happen to choose the Cowboys for whatever reason, and they're usually more tolerable. This is my experience with it. So they're obnoxious, and it's like, why aren't you a New York sports fan? You're from New York. Why are you a Cowboys fan? It doesn't make any sense. But at least they're still kind of New Yorkers. The Philly guys are the Philly guys, and they can be a handful. Agreed. Hate the Eagles with a passion. As a beat-up Eagles fan, that's pretty funny. I don't think so. We're all Giants fans in here. I'm just ready for Russ to light it up this year and our defense making the other QBs doing cardio in the backfield. Let's go, Big Blue. I cannot wait for the defense to make the quarterbacks do cardio. I can't wait for the defense to give the quarterbacks nightmares. Let's talk about more of OTAs and what we expect to see. So just as a reminder, OTAs, I'll give you the full explanation from the Giants website on what the OTAs do consist of. Teams may conduct 10 of these spring practices over the next 4 weeks, with the Giants scheduled to hold theirs May 27th and 28th, May 30th, June 2nd and 3rd, June 5th, June 9th and 10th, and June 12th and 13th. While no live contact is permitted, the third and final phase of the offseason workout program is the first opportunity for teams to conduct 7-on-7, 9-on-7, and 11-on-11 drills with their full roster. the Giants will conclude with a 3-day mini camp starting June 17th and then break until training camp in late July. So that's what the OTAs look like. No contact, but we will get all of those fun clips and highlights of Malik Neighbors breaking ankles and running really good routes. So I am excited for OTAs nonetheless. And we will see Russell Wilson working on his timing with Neighbors, throwing passes, live reps against competition. There will be legitimate opportunities for iron to sharpen iron, so to speak, for Jalin Hyatt to go up against Deonte Banks, for Deonte Banks to match up against Wan'Dale, Slayton. Like, they will actually be covering each other. This will be our first look at Paulson Adebo in coverage. How does he handle practicing against Malik Neighbors? This will be our first look at a lot of these guys. So I'm really excited for it. We're not going to see a lot from the offensive and defensive linemen because there is no contact. We'll see them do their drills. We'll see them practice, and they might do a little bit of hand fighting and simulated pass rushing. But generally speaking, there's not going to be legitimate contact. So don't expect to see any of those big highlights from the trench guys. But we should see some fun highlights again from the quarterbacks, receivers, and corners and safeties, all the defensive backs and skill position players, and the running backs as well. Maybe we'll see them rip some big runs in the 11-on-11 drills. Should be fun. Greg, good question. I don't know if Adebo is fully healthy, but he's definitely made a lot of progress. I'll find the video if you haven't seen it of him doing the backflip. He's been recovering, and he is expected to be fully healthy for the start of the regular season. Paulson Adebo backflip. Let me see if I can find it. No, I can't. It's not popping up. Anyway, there was a video of him doing a backflip earlier this offseason. Oh, I found it. Oh, you've already seen the backflip. My bad. Nah, I'll just show it anyway. So looking pretty healthy. Again, I don't think he's fully healthy. He's not at 100%. If there was a game tomorrow, maybe he's not able to play. Maybe he is. I don't really know. We haven't gotten a ton of reporting on it, but he is expected to be ready for the start of the season. So at the very least, we know that he'll be out there for that. And I imagine he'll do some sort of work. He'll probably get out there for at least some 7-on-7 drills. If he is healthy enough to run and move like that, he's probably healthy enough to do some of the practicing. Let's see. I really hope Deonte Banks bounces back. As you guys know, I'm a big fan of Deonte Banks. He's who I really wanted in that draft, and I was really happy when the Giants landed him. Hasn't lived up to expectations. But again, I still think there's a lot of talent there. I just think it's been poor circumstances for him. If he could take that step forward this year, that would be monumental for the Giants defense. That's for sure. Who you taking in fantasy, Tyrone Tracy or Skattebo? Well, it depends. If it's a dynasty, well, I don't know. It's not that different. Dynasty, I guess it's a little different. Maybe because I think the long-term outlook for Skattebo is really, really positive. But Tyrone Tracy's probably making more of an impact this year, so it depends. But I think I'm going with Tracy because I do expect him to get the full bulk of the carries. Like, I think he's going to lead the team in touches from the running back position. But I think Skattebo could end up leading the team in touchdowns, if that makes sense. Because I think he's going to get a lot more opportunities from 1 to 20 yards out versus Tracy's going to do a lot of the other heavy lifting throughout the game. So I think it depends on that, how you feel. If you want more of a touchdown score, if you want more of a guy who's putting up yardage and touches. What is the favorite thing you've seen from Dart so far? What else would you like to see from him in OTAs? In OTAs, what I want to see from him is him actually working with the ones. I don't expect him to be the starter in week 1. I don't expect him to start anytime early in the season, but I would still like to see the Giants rotate him in with the starting first string because I want to see him build a rapport and a chemistry with Malik Neighbors. Unfortunately, the way that practices work in the NFL, if you're not the first string guy, you very rarely throw to the other first string guys. It's very rare that they actually mix a third stringer in with the first team and have them build that chemistry. They rarely ever do that. But this is one of those rare instances where I think they need to, right? Like Jalin Hyatt, or not Jalin Hyatt, sorry, Jackson Dart. I think needs to start throwing passes to neighbors and these first stringers as soon as possible, just in case he's called upon to start at some point this season. He's already got a rapport and a chemistry building. And also because of the long-term outlook of this team with him being the potential franchise quarterback, our franchise cornerstone player, Malik Neighbors, I want the two of them building a chemistry. So that's what I would like to see at OTAs, just those two starting to get along and starting to vibe and click together. But outside of that, I want to see him commands the huddle in the 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 practices. They do call plays. They do simulate what it's like to get a play call into your helmet during the 11-on-11s when they're moving down the field. Obviously, again, no contact, no padding. But how about just seeing him get the call in, relay the call to the players in the huddle, and then go to the line of scrimmage, get under center, try and read the defense. I think all of that would be really nice to see as a first step in OTAs. This is when those first steps should be happening. The 6'4" UDFA we have, do you think he can make an impact? I forgot his name, but he definitely has the size to help. That would be Bo Collins out of Notre Dame, I believe is who you're referring to. He is definitely a big body guy, and he adds that to the mix that was otherwise absent from the receiving core. But I'm not sure how much of an impact he makes during the regular season, but during preseason, he'll probably get some playing time and hopefully make some plays. And maybe he does sneak on to the back end of the roster. Greg, you're absolutely right. If we don't score more than 16 points per game this year, you have to fire Brian Daboll. He's supposed to be this offensive genius, offensive mastermind, but I haven't seen it so far. We got to see a real offense. Sean, do you think JMS is the long-term answer at center? To be determined. It's kind of tough. Like, I would have liked to see more from him through the first couple of seasons of his career. And, now we're entering this third season and he hasn't established himself as a high-quality starter, and it's a little bit concerning. So I still think he can be. I don't know how high his ceiling is going to reach at this point, considering he hasn't played well through the first few seasons of his career. But yeah, I still think that he can be the long-term answer at center. So I'm hopeful, and my outlook is still positive for him, especially with Russell Wilson behind him now. I think that's going to help him out a lot. So we'll see. It's a big year for him, though. If he doesn't play well this year, then my answer is going to be no by the end of the year. Candyman, what's up? Hope you're still enjoying your retirement over in Costa Rica, but saying smash the like button, guys. Yes, please. Thank you to everybody who has already smashed the like button. But if you haven't, it's the best way to support the channel. It's free. It helps us get picked up by the algorithm and reach more New York Giants fans. And as you all know, we're really trying to grow this year on the march to 30,000 subscribers. Got to hit the 25,000 first, and we're very close to that mark. And so super excited about that. And of course, we will have a 25K subscriber special for you guys, a very special video and episode that we're already planning in the works. But stay tuned for that. Again, on the march to 30K. Keep smashing the like so we can grow this platform and get some more like-minded Giants fans in here. Luis, I just had it up a second ago, but I'll go ahead and pull it up once again for you when OTA starts. It's next week. It's actually a week from today. This is the schedule for Giants OTAs. So we are a week away from the start of OTAs. So I want to get in here, have some early discussions about them. I don't know if Hyatt isn't athletic enough. I think he's maybe not physical enough. Reese, I think that's how you pronounce your name, right? Reese, correct me if I'm wrong down below. I'd love to get people's names pronounced correctly. But listen, if he's cut by the end of the year, it's going to be because he just didn't get involved in the game plan and Slayton was better than him week in, week out. Or if they sign Gabe Davis and he plays ahead of him. But I don't know if athleticism is the problem for Hyatt. I still think he's a great athlete. I just think it's a lack of physicality. Yeah, he is more of a straight line speed receiver. He's not a great route runner, and he's very bad against press coverage, which we did talk about earlier in the live stream. That is his big issue, is his lack of ability to beat press. That, again, though, I think has a lot to do with his physicality. But if you are talking about one thing in his athleticism that might be holding him back, it's his short area quickness. He doesn't necessarily have that burst because there's two ways that you can win against press coverage, right? You can be physical, and you can push those defenders off of you and get by them, or you can be really quick off the line of scrimmage, really fast, fiery feet, and then create some space for yourself and then run your route, right? Like that's also a possibility. So maybe that is where he's held back in his athleticism. Maybe he isn't good enough in his short area quickness. I think you can make a pretty strong argument for that. Greg saying we can use Skattebo like the 2025 Frank Gifford, but I don't think Daboll has that in his bag. I think Daboll's got that in his bag. And, I think there's a lot of versatility to his game, and I think they'll find a way to use it. I think they're going to be a pretty even split. I think Carter's going to ultimately end up with more pass rushing reps, but it's going to be close. I still expect both of these guys to be on the field for at least 70% of the snaps. I don't expect Kayvon Thibodeau to get completely phased out, play less than half the snaps for the defense in a given game. He should still be on the field for 70% of snaps. They're going to find ways to rotate these guys all across the defensive line. Listen, when you've got two good interior defenders like Darius Alexander and Dexter Lawrence, of course, you can get by with that third interior defender being a little bit of an undersized player who's primarily from the edge, like a Carter / Thibodeau or Burns. You can rotate those guys in. Those can be your three interiors, and then the fourth one being a Burns or Thibodeau, or both of them. You put 5 down linemen. Like, there's so many ways that you can make it work. It's just up to Shane Bowen to actually be creative enough to get them all on the field. Could JMS switch to guard and train Bo as center? I don't think Bo moves to center this year, but maybe by next year if JMS doesn't work out. If JMS is struggling late in the year, maybe gets banged up, Bo would probably get the first nod, the first crack at being that center 2, I would think, just because they probably want to get him experience. I don't think JMS could switch to guard because a lot of his issues at center have to do with the fact that he's not really moving people with power, and that you need even more so at guard. So I think it would be a little bit tough for him to make that transition. Thanks so much. Appreciate the like. Let's see. So he did run a 4.4, not a 4.3, but also, yeah, I think he is athletic. I think he also had a pretty nice vertical jump, if I'm not mistaken. But it's really the short area quickness. Also, shout out to Tibosaurus Rex, in case any of you were missing the boy. He is still hanging out here on the desk. Primo, what's up? Saying, Anthony, as a fan of the Giants since the early 70s, I must say that my greatest distinction is with the Cowboys, Cowgirls. Back in the day, we had no real beef with the Eagles fans because they never won. Yeah, unfortunately, now they've won quite a bit, and they've won with one of our former stars, and so it stings even worse. And man, I hate the way the Eagles fans celebrate their wins, so I just can't stand them. Now it's the Cowboys that never win. They haven't won a championship in how long? Sean, I think this is a good question. If we win 10 games this year, I think there's a good chance we end up extending Russ, but probably only for one more season. I think that they're pretty eager to get Jackson Dart on the field because they have such strong conviction and really want him to play. So I think it's going to be tough for them to keep him off the field past 2026. So if they do extend Russ, it would be, once again, he's a bridge quarterback next year. But if they win 10 games and he plays really well, he might cost too much next offseason. They might have to just let him walk, take the comp pick for him, and go ahead and start Jackson Dart. I think that's the more likely scenario, to be honest. They spent the first-round pick on Dart, and they believe in him. So if Russ plays really well and he's commanding $30+ million per season next offseason, which is realistic if they win 10 games and he plays some good ball, I definitely think that Dart would end up being the guy because the Giants would be hesitant to pay Russell Wilson that much money going into 2026 with Dart on the roster. So I think it's actually unlikely. Greg, this is also a good point. Listen, he's a good athlete. He's got the straight line speed. He's got, he could run by anybody. You're right. But Hyatt, in terms of playing the game of football, the technical things at wide receiver, the skills that you need to be really successful, he hasn't mastered any of them. He's not a great route runner. He's had some drops, and he's not good with spatial awareness and recognition. You're right. There's just a lot. He's got a very incomplete game. Now, half of that is he's not polished and he needs to work harder. The other half is, are the Giants properly developing him? Probably not. So we'll see if he ends up having the career turnaround. If he can break out the season, that'd be fantastic. Who do you think gets the most snaps from the slot receiver position this year? Wan'Dale, Malik, or somebody else? It's going to be Wan'Dale because he can't play anywhere else. He can only really play in the slot. But, of course, Neighbors will move in and out of the slot as well. He's really good in the slot. He's really good outside, of course. He's just one of those do-it-all receivers. But it's going to be the majority going to Wan'Dale because he can't do it all. He has to play in the slot. Joe, honestly, at this point, I'm not entirely sure that they will end up extending Wan'Dale. One of the reasons being, we did the cap breakdown in yesterday's live stream. The Giants only have $28 million in cap space projected for next offseason right now. They're going to have to make some space, and extending him would maybe free up some money this year, but not next year. It would make it more tough next year. And also, Wan'Dale has been a good player, and he's been a decent slot guy underneath all that stuff. but he hasn't been a big impact player. And I think the Giants, rather than paying Wan'Dale, it's hard to project what his contract would look like as well, especially after Khalil Shakir got $13 million per year or whatever he got. Very hard to tell how much Wan'Dale is going to get paid. But I think that Wan'Dale's production could be replaced in one of two ways. Either you could probably replicate it with a cheap rookie contract draft pick, get close to the same amount of production immediately, or you could far surpass Wan'Dale's production by bringing in a more star-studded talent to be the playmaker opposite Malik Neighbors. So instead of, putting however much money into Wan'Dale, you take that money and then some, add on to it and put it into a better player, and you let Wan'Dale walk. That would probably be the way that I think the Giants go about it, because I think they'd rather have 2 star receivers than 1 star and a couple good guys. Yeah, I mean, listen, Daboll, I do think did a lot better with his demeanor and his temper last year. I think in his first season with the team, he definitely had his issues. But last year, I thought, a little bit better than the previous 2 seasons. But this year, I'm hoping that he's able to be reserved again and maintain his temper, but also get these young guys to develop. Like I said, he's supposed to be this offensive guru. Our offense has sucked every year with him. I mean, they were okay. They were fine in 2022, but still the defense is the reason that the Giants went into the playoffs. Got to be better. Got to be a better offense. Love our draft. How do you feel about our current roster? Do you think Daboll can make chemistry work for success? I think what Daboll can do best is dial up moments of greatness for Malik Neighbors and Russell Wilson. Create some opportunities for them to hit some home runs, swing the momentum of games, and get on top early, and the Giants can sneak out some underdog victories. I think the roster is good enough to win games. I think the schedule is really hard, but the roster is definitely good enough to be a competitive football team into the month of November, December. So it's just going to come down to coaching, and I don't necessarily know if that's all on Daboll. I have major question marks. I have more question marks on Shane Bowen than I do for Daboll. So that's really what it's going to come down to for me. Kind of like NY Ben 13 here is saying, I think Shane Bowen has the hottest seat. If the defense is lining up 28 points a game, how many games until he's fired if they are losing? Less than 6 weeks. If the defense is that bad in the first month of the season after they just poured all these assets, paid a ton of money to Adebo, a ton of money to Javon Holland, traded obviously last year and put a ton of money into Brian Burns, took him to a Carter, number 3 overall, have Dexter Lawrence back from injury, top 5 pick years ago in Kayvon. I mean, Bobby Okereke makes $10 million per year. First round pick recently on Deontay Banks. Like, the Giants have poured so many assets into this defense, and they do have talent. If this is a 28 point per game surrendered defense through the first month of the season, I think you got to just cut your losses with Shane Bowen, move on sooner rather than later, and promote from within. Let there be an interim DC, and hopefully they're able to turn it around for the rest of the year. See, I don't think this is something the Giants would do. If they're going to make a free agency acquisition between now and the start of the season, I think it would either be more defensive help because they really want to make sure they get it right and there's no excuses for Shane Bowen, or it'll end up being a receiver. Nick Chubb is a good player, but they really love what they have in Tyrone Tracy, and I think everybody knows they really love what they have in Cam Skattebo. So ultimately, a running back signing seems unlikely. Plus, they do really like Motor Singletary. He's kind of the forgotten man, but he's a good veteran. Let's see. 13 sacks for Carter as a rookie would be incredible. That would be by far the biggest total for a rookie in Giants history. The unofficial record for single season sacks as a rookie is Lawrence Taylor at 9.5. But the official is 8 total sacks, I believe, from Azeez Ojulari. So if 51 can break 51's 8 sacks, and if he can break 56's 9.5 and go for double digits, we'll be happy. 13 would just be blowing it away. Skattebo! Does Bellinger make the roster this year? I love having a guy whose hands you can count on at the tight end, but he seems to be falling down the depth chart. He definitely is, and I do think he ends up making the roster, but because the Giants could save almost $4 million by releasing him post-June 1st, he is in a competition. He needs to prove that he's worth that $3.6 million that the Giants would be saving by releasing him. And essentially, it's going to come down to a battle between him, Chris Manhertz, and Thomas Fidone. Thomas Fidone is a 7th-round draft pick that the Giants picked up, who they really like, who had a lot of talent coming out of high school, didn't fully realize in college due to injuries. But again, a talented player in terms of pure talent, maybe not in production talent, but in terms of his raw physical capabilities, a good player who was overlooked in the draft process as a result of his injuries. So I do think that, listen, Fidone and Bellinger could be competing, and we could end up seeing a potential competition there that maybe sees the Giants opt to take the money and move on from Bellinger. But again, it's going to come down to a competition, I think. If we go 9-8, Eric, I'm going to be thrilled, especially if we split with the Eagles. That would be fantastic. But listen, it wouldn't shock me. I do think that the Giants really improved. Guys, throw a like down here, please. Appreciate you. This for vegan for supporting the channel. Yeah, Singletary. Everybody keeps forgetting about him. Like, he is the forgotten man. And, I mean, it's hard to keep him in the forefront of your mind when you're watching highlights of Skattebo running people over. I mean, guys, let me show you this clip. If you didn't see this, if you don't follow me on Twitter, if you didn't see it, I already posted it on Fireside Giants YouTube Shorts. But, I mean, this clip got me so hyped. Let me pull this up. 1 second. You guys are really going to like this. I mean, Skattebo is such an exciting player, man. How can you not be thrilled? Look at this. Look at the violence that this man runs with. The power. Ready? Skattebo. Boom! Oh, yeah. Yeah, you know I'm excited. Let me do that again. Boom! Skattebo. Boom! Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can't wait to watch Skattebo play. So, again, I don't blame you for forgetting about Singletary. It's kind of hard to keep him in the forefront of your mind when you see clips of Skattebo doing things like this. Him and Tracy are both really young and really exciting, but keep in mind, Devin Singletary was playing some really good football before he got hurt last season. So I think he was like leading the NFL in missed tackles forced. And do you think they're going to double and maybe slide a linebacker as well to make it really hard for him to get open? Wait, who? For who to get open? I'm sorry. Maybe Wan'Dale? I think you're referring to Wan'Dale, actually. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough, but keep in mind, the Giants are going to face a lot of nickel this year because they're going to throw the ball more. They're going to have receivers who can get out of the backfield and make plays as running backs who can get out of the backfield and make plays as a receiver. They have Malik Neighbors, and they do have Wan'Dale in the slot. Like, they've got some slot guys. So I think you were talking about Wan'Dale. Wan'Dale's a good slot guy. So I don't know. I just think the fact that they have a quarterback who can threaten defenses now, even at a slightly above average level in Russell Wilson, they're going to face a lot of nickel. And so these guys are going to get open. And I don't know if there's going to be a lot of linebackers doing that doubling. It's probably going to be really good nickel cornerbacks that Wan'Dale needs to worry about. 13 might be a record. No, I think 14 is the record. Most sacks by a rookie in a season. 14 and a half. Javon Curse in 1999. So, wow, that's a lot, dude. I think Fidone is competing for a roster spot. I think it comes down to him and Bellinger. And it's going to be, if they're negligible, they're both about the same amount of talent and production throughout the summer. They're going to go ahead and take Fidone because he's cheaper. And that's the wise thing to do for the salary cap. But I think he will make the roster. They spent a draft pick on him, and he's talented. Again, overlooked in the process. They got him in the 7th round, but a lot of boards had him as a 5th round prospect. So a good pick there. And so I think he will make the roster. Yeah, I think a realistic expectation is about 7, but I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to be completely unrealistic. I am expecting him to crack double digits. I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to have a season very similar to Micah Parsons in his rookie year. He had 11 and a half sacks as a rookie. I totally envision something like that for Abdul Carter. Fidone is pretty sneaky good. Yeah, Belly's a pretty decent blocker. Kicker situation, to be completely honest with you, absolute mess. Graham Gano coming off of the injury, coming off of really poor performances the last 2 seasons, injuries in both seasons. They need to bring in competition this summer. It's like inexcusable that they haven't done that yet, in my opinion. So it's fine because they've got time. But this summer in training camp, there needs to be a competition. Job cannot be given to Graham Gano. Yeah, let's Skattebo kick. Why not? I have not seen his high school stats, but I have seen his stats from last year. 1,700 rushing yards, 24 total touchdowns. Guy was a freak. No, he can't just force it to leak. And yeah, there are going to be a lot of double teams for Leak, but honestly, he's going to get open anyway, in my opinion. And also, there's going to be ways that they can scheme him open. They're not going to have a lot of moments where they're going to be forcing it to leak, because it's going to be a lot of play actions, deep crossers where he's running through zones, or if they've got a single high safety, he'll beat the cornerback one-on-one on the outside, whether he's on the go ball or if he makes it a comeback based on the leverage. Leak is going to eat. He's going to find ways to get open. And the Giants do have capable receivers outside of Leak, like Theo Johnson is going to get peppered this year because Russell Wilson loves to target tight ends. So expect a lot of Theo Johnson up the seam and over the middle. And then I am higher on Slayton than most Giants fans. I think he's a very good player who's been underutilized. And I think Russell Wilson is going to demonstrate that. He's going to hit him accurately, and he's going to catch some passes, and Wan'Dale as well. These guys are going to get more targets, and it's going to open things up a little bit more for Malik Neighbors, where he's not going to be double teamed every single play. Wow, that's insane. Skattebo. Yeah, I'm balls to the wall on Carter, man. I'm really high on him. I do think Slayton will make an impact, Joe. I think that, listen, Darius Slayton is a player who I think has been remarkably consistent for the Giants. I know a lot of fans don't feel that way because he's got his drops, but again, I've said I think the drops issue is overblown. I think when you're throwing some really inaccurate and ugly and way too fast seam balls that should be touch balls, when you're throwing some bad passes, you're going to drop some of them. And so he hasn't played with good quarterback play, but he's still found a way to be very productive in his career despite not having good quarterback play. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a guy who was drafted in the 5th round in 2019 who's still on this team 6 years later. And also, in addition to that, he's had several seasons over 700 yards, several seasons as the leading receiver. So tremendous production from a guy who was a 5th-round draft pick, who's really made a great impact, just has been asked to do too much because he's not a WR1. He's not a high-end WR2, but he is a pretty high-end WR3. And if the Giants are ever able to get a really good WR2 to pair with Neighbors, Slayton as WR3 is going to be an absolute steal. It's going to be great value. So I think he'll make an impact. I think he's going to have better quarterback play this year. And so as a result, we should see him get more on track with his 700-yard seasons and hopefully be a pretty capable WR2 for this offense. Sean, this is a really good question. What's the status on Andrew Thomas? Do you think he'll be ready for game 1? I don't know if I've seen an update on Andrew Thomas's health, but I will say we are going to get a very good idea of Andrew Thomas's health 1 week from today. When, of course, OTAs do kick off, we will see, is Andrew Thomas out there? Is he practicing? Is he healthy? We'll get some sort of an update on his health. And if he's not out there, one of the coaches will inevitably be asked about it, and we'll get a better timeline. So I don't have an exact status report, no update on Thomas, but I'll say stay tuned next week when we do our OTA day 1 reaction and breakdown on the channel. We'll get a better idea of where Andrew Thomas is. And of course, I'll relay that information here. I actually do think the special teams is going to be better this season, because if you look at what the Giants did in the late rounds of the draft with Corey Black, who's a good special teams player, special teams experience, really fast as well. And some of the free agent signings, undrafted free agent signings they made, a lot of those guys had special teams upside or special teams experience. So I think that they are kind of making it a point to bring in some of those depth pieces who can contribute in that way. Obviously, the kicking and punting situation remains to be seen. We'll see about Graham Gano, or if they bring in a different kickers, to improve the special teams, but we'll see. And then on top of that, I can't get much worse, right? Oh, also, Amir Smith-Marset did re-sign with the team, so they believe in him as their return specialist, and I do too. I think he's a pretty good return specialist, so I think it will be better. Oh, I already picked that one up. Yeah, special teams needs to be better. Needs to be better. You're absolutely right. Everybody forgets David Tyree. No, he was not a big contributor in the Giants offense. It was a miracle that he made that catch. But he was an all-pro special teams player. The Giants had all-pros back in the day on the special teams. They had some really good players in that regard. Helps a lot. That third phase of the game can't be overlooked. Jeffrey, I think he overcomplicated the offense for the quarterbacks that the Giants had. I think Russell Wilson would be able to handle it. I think it was probably overcomplicated for Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito, and Tim Boyle. Russell Wilson's fine. So I don't think he needs to simplify it this year. I think he tried to simplify it midway through last year, and it still just didn't work. Because essentially he simplified the crap out of it in 2022 when the Giants went to the playoffs. Then he was like, all right, Daniel Jones, you've had a year in the scheme, in my system. Let's see you take that next step forward in 2023. Didn't work. He wasn't able to take the step forward. Once Daboll made it more complicated and got it up to speed, closer to where he had it with Josh Allen when he had that rapport with him, everything fell apart for Daniel Jones. So, and then he got hurt, of course, and that was all she wrote. But no, I don't think he's overcomplicated the offense. I think he runs a really good offense. Yeah, it's a complex scheme, but the best schemes are complex because they keep defenses guessing. And it's just about having a quarterback with a high level of intelligence. And I think the Giants finally have that. Knowing Daboll in his press conference, we aren't going to get any information on the injury whatsoever. I think we'll get something on Andrew Thomas just because he's so important. I think, it might not be a ton, but Daboll will say, yeah, he's tracking to be ready for camp. Or he'll say, we're still trying to figure it out, which is code for he's not tracking to be ready for training camp. So if he says he's going to be ready for camp, we're good. We're excited. If he doesn't indicate that, we'll know that this might be a little bit more significant and long-term of an injury where he's going to spend the entire summer getting better. But I want to say that I saw something somewhat recently that said he was tracking to be ready for camp. I just don't know for sure. So I can't really think of it, but we'll see. Wouldn't that be cool, right? Listen, like I said, Juice Wells, when he was at South Carolina, and last year when I was doing my quarterback research for the draft and talking about Spencer Rattler on the channel, Juice Wells really popped off the screen. Was a player I really liked. I watched a lot of Xavier Legette as well, who you guys know I liked. And at one point, I had Juice Wells on my draft board, but then he decided to go back to school and then transfer to Ole Miss, of course, went undrafted this year, but definitely was a draftable player, I think. So maybe he could be something in the preseason. Yeah, these are real big sleepers for the special teams. I think Ford Wheaton has all of the physical tools, traits, and acumen to be special in special teams for sure. No pun intended. It did on accident. But also maybe he could be a good depth piece of receiver. I think we'll see. It'll be interesting to see though if Amir Smith-Marset can maintain that success that he had at the end of last season, because I think everybody knows, if you have a good return specialist, it can make a really big difference. Joe, I know this isn't Giants news, but how do you feel our boy, ex-Giants superstar Daniel Jones, will do with the Colts? Do you think he takes a job from Richardson? Unfortunately, I don't have the brightest outlook still for Daniel Jones. But as I said, I think on yesterday's live stream, he's in a really good situation. He's got a wide open position battle, quarterback battle with Anthony Richardson, who's a very unpolished product and unfinished product who's wildly inconsistent. And I think the Colts right now, because they kind of need to win some games to save some jobs, similarly to the Giants, they're not looking for inconsistency. They're looking for a more finished product, a guy who has experience, who can just kind of manage games. So they might run a very simple offense. Shane Steichen is a very good offensive mind as well, quarterback-friendly mind too. And they have a couple of receivers in Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman who are really damn good. So it's a really good situation for Jones. I think he probably wins the job out of camp. I don't know how long he keeps the job because I think inevitably he's going to have his Jones moments. And the Colts are going to say, all right, well, it can't get much worse than this. Let's go ahead and throw Anthony Richardson in the lineup. And hopefully then Richardson pops off and that's all she wrote. We'll see, because I'm rooting for Anthony Richardson. I like him as a player. But yeah, I do think that there's a really good chance Jones wins that job out of camp. What do you think about starting Bo at left tackle and moving Illuminor to guard? I think you mean right tackle, I'm going to assume, because Illuminor is the right tackle. So I think that's going to depend a lot on the preseason. Bo's going to get his reps, I think, in the preseason at both right tackle and right guard. I think they're going to kind of mix and match him there because they have said that they're going to mix him in both places. So wherever he performs best in training camp and preseason, I think will depend on where he plays, if he does play at all in the regular season. But I think the Giants really like what they have in Illuminor at right tackle. And I think they feel good with the floor that they have with Greg Van Noten at right guard. And I don't think they want to rush Bo into the lineup. So I don't think he starts until late in the year if he does start at all. That would be our luck. But you know what? I will bet you $100 right now that this isn't going to happen. Feel pretty confident in that. Joe saying, out of all the rookie quarterbacks coming out into their sophomore season, which one takes a step back and which one a step up? A step up for me is going to be Caleb Williams. Drake May, though. I don't know if the Patriots did enough to surround Drake May with talent. I honestly, I thought they would do more to bring more receivers in and give him more talent to throw to. And they brought in Stephon Diggs, coming off of the injury, though. So I'm going to go Caleb just because he's got so much talent around him with DJ Moore. Roma Dunze, I think, takes a step forward. Ben Johnson's now the play caller and head coach and offensive coordinator, everything. So they've got a good backfield with DeAndre Swift, I think, is a good player. So I'm going to go with Caleb. Obviously, they added Colston Loveland, and they still have Cole Kmet, so 2 tight end sets are going to be fun for them. I'm going to go with Caleb. The one that takes a step back, though, I think is going to be Bo Nix, just because I feel as though he was very much the product of a scheme. He played really well in the scheme, and I'm not going to discredit him. He's a good player, and he had a really good rookie season. But I think that he might be close to as good as he's going to get. And I know he's going to get better. I'm sure he will. But I just think year 2, if there's anywhere where I see a potential sophomore slump, it's going to be the guy competing in one of the toughest divisions in the NFL, which is the FC West. So I'll go with Bo Nix. I hope it's Caleb, or not Caleb Williams. I hope it's Jaden Daniels, though. I hope he takes a step back and the division becomes wide open and the Giants win it. Oh, I don't know. Penix is the step forward, maybe the step backwards guy for me. I think that's going to be a tricky situation for him. I don't believe in what they're cooking over there in Atlanta, to be honest. Not as a result of Penix. I think he's a pretty good player, but just not sure I believe in the environment. What are your thoughts on banning the tush push? Philly fans obviously think it's laughable. Listen, I think it's a really controversial decision if it passes because there is no evidence that it actually does contribute towards injuries. So what's the argument for getting rid of it other than it being an unfair competitive advantage for one team? I don't know. I don't like the play. I don't think it's a football play. I think it's a rugby play. Like there's so many arguments about it. And obviously it used to be a rule. You can't push people forward. And then they took it out and the Eagles took advantage. I would like to get rid of it for the simple reason that it'll make football more fun to watch. You know, when it's a 1 yard to gain situation, I'm tired of seeing the same play executed every single time. I want to see some variety. It makes the game more exciting. And giving the defense a little bit more of an advantage in those, not that they have the advantage in the 1 yard to gain situations, but I don't know. I think that it just makes the game less fun to watch. And I think that while the injuries need to be factored and everything like that, and it is so far technically a safe play, the other thing that needs to be factored is the watchability and enjoyability of the product that the NFL is putting on the field. And as a result, I think that's why they're going to move towards getting rid of the tush push, because it does make certain situations just very boring. Right. Like, why don't we get the Superman moments back? I also do hate the Eagles with a passion, so I'm with you. But like, I'd like to see guys jump over the line, a la Walter Payton, right? Like that's more fun than watching somebody just dive into a bunch of knees and ankles. What numbers do you see our receivers getting this season besides Neighbors? Who do you see being the breakout next to him? The breakout next to him, and this might sound crazy, guys, but I want to say it's Darius Slayton. And I don't know how much he's going to break out. I just think he's going to be better than he was last year. I think he's more bounce back than breakout because I think his ceiling is still probably about the stat line that he had as a rookie. What did he have? About 7 touchdowns and 700 something yards. I think that's probably still his ceiling, but I think he gets back into form like that because he's got vertical threat ability and he's rather consistent and dependable. Again, 6 years of production now. So he's the player that I think plays a lot better now that Russell Wilson is throwing the ball. But in terms of breakout, I think we'll finally see Jalin Hyatt make some plays. Just as a heads up, I will be wrapping this up in the next couple of minutes, so send in your final chats if you have any more questions. Why don't we hear more about Kafka being on the hot seat? He doesn't call plays, and development on the offensive side has been crap, so what does he really do? I think a reason why we don't hear a lot more of that is because the head coach is also an offensive mind, and he is on the hot seat, and so he's just put under the larger microscope, so to speak. That's just why we don't hear more about Kafka. But I think everybody knows Kafka and Daboll, their faith is pretty much intertwined. And also maybe we don't hear as much about it because Kafka's received a lot of head coaching interviews indicating that he's got a lot of respect around the league, even if the Giants maybe don't value him as much as other teams do. So what does that say about the Giants? Maybe a lot, maybe nothing. Who knows? But I think that's ultimately the reasons why. But he might end up calling plays again this year. We'll see. It's possible. I feel about the Giants that they will be better this year. That's ultimately how I feel. Yeah, I mean, maybe. Yes, that's for sure, Lane. Got to get the ball downfield. Yeah, so I don't think that we get anything for a lateral move. If he gets a promotion, meaning he moves somewhere and becomes a head coach, then we would get a comp pick. Dylan, I kind of agree with you. Like, I think that Hyatt will be held back by Slayton's presence on this roster the same way he has been the past couple of years. So, but Theo Johnson, I do think will get more targets and play better. He's just got to stay healthy. Like I said, Russ really likes to get the ball to his tight ends. But all right. I think that, we've hit the 1 hour mark. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you to everybody who did tune in. Like the banning of the Tush push. I do kind of agree. The pushing. Yeah, get rid of it. Whatever. Make it more fair. Super Bowl, baby. I hope we get a Super Bowl. Lane, me too. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the Fireside Giants community. We are all big Giants fans here, except for Trenton. He's a resident Eagles fan who supports the channel, and we appreciate him as well. But again, guys, thank you so much to everybody who did tune in on this Tuesday afternoon live stream. You guys already know I'll be back on the channel tomorrow, either with a video upload or another live stream, so stay tuned for that. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. Listen out for Spotify. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, I'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
Perfect.